reality is my expectations were blown away throughout the program. The only thing that kept me grounded and sane through all of this was the Heroic Husband program. One of the first ones that I actually talked to, he asked me, where do you see yourself in 6 months? And I said, I have no idea. I can't even picture what's going to happen. And going from that in the beginning to now is almost night and day. Now it's like she loves everything, but she's just terrified of things going back.
Would you recommend this to other people?
Oh, absolutely.
And who
Absolutely.
would you recommend it to?
To anyone that's going through this. I was literally on a bachelor party. Um, we were down in South Carolina, and we went out to a strip club at the bachelor party, and I was not in any frame of mind to be at a strip club. So I just went outside, and I was just hanging out in the parking lot and ended up running into another guy that was going through a divorce situation. And I'm like, dude, here's the website. This is what you got to check this out. It's real. Like it's not just hand you a a, a booklet and some audio tapes and or some audio recordings, and you're off on your own. Like it's real life discussions. It's real life scenarios in real time that give you the continuous support that you need to be successful. Noah's pretty impressive for a few reasons. One being that he has really put in the work to understand not only the guys going through this because he's been through it, but the female side of it too, and understanding the psychology. And he's really put together the tools in the program that allows us to um, transform ourselves and gives us the opportunity to save our relationships and our marriages.
It's not going to be anything crazy. This is just like Riverside is just kind of like a podcast recording type of a deal. Um, it's better than Google Meets. I was doing these on Google Meets, and then I was doing these on Zoom, and I didn't like either of those. The quality was bad. For editing, it was horrible. It was really bad. Our guys were like, "Can you do something different?" But basically, I mainly just wanted to talk to you today because I believe that your story is incredible, um, especially where you're coming from. Like a lot of guys have faced or currently do, right? Face what you're going through or what you were going through, where people are telling you opposing, advice. Then you're also getting, I don't want to say bad advice, but you're getting skewed. We'll call it skewed. We'll be nice. We'll call it skewed advice for quote unquote professionals in the space. Um, the most recent one was very wild to me about separation. So we'll kind of go into all of that. I have a couple of questions. Shouldn't take too long. Talk as much as you want. We'll go back and forth. But we'll just kind of start it off with, like, let's start from the beginning. So why did you get the Heroic Husband book?
Because my wife came to me and told me that she still loves me, but she was no longer in love with me, and that she wanted to separate, and that pretty much put me in a pretty bad place. So I was looking for some way to understand what was going on and and get some help with the situation. And I looked at a few different programs, and this was the program that resonated with me. So decided to do the intake call, and that was amazing talking with Jake. And just felt super comfortable. So, joined the program.
Awesome. And then, so what specifically resonated with you about us versus other people?
I think it felt more real. It felt like this was not only a program that looked at things in a way that really helped, but that there was a community that you could talk to and share things with and bounce things off of. And um just after going through the initial book, it seemed pretty clear to me that there were a lot of things that I didn't know, and there were a lot of things that I needed to work on. And um the way it was structured and everything was put together, it felt like the right fit.
Beautiful. What, and I'm always curious, especially when people bring up the book. What was it that kind of did it for you when you were reading the book? You're like, I need to know more about this.
I mean, I think it was really going into understanding a little bit of the psychology behind it, and wanting to really kind of delve into understanding the feminine more and how to approach it. And um, it felt like in the book, we got a good amount of information to be able to kind of get started, but um, to really be successful, we needed to dive in, head first. And that's why I decided to keep going past the book.
I love it. I love it. So I guess, I guess what my next question is, because I have about like 10 of these. So my next question that I always have and I always ask everybody is like, what was it that specifically, besides just feeling like comfortable and feeling like it was right, what was it? What was the reason specifically why you joined the turnaround program?
Because I wanted more than anything to figure out how to keep my family together. And I knew that I wasn't happy with myself. I knew that I needed to change. And just from going through the book initially, and some of the early videos and emails that I got from you, I could see so clearly that if I didn't take control and start leading, that this was going to be over. And I had to make that conscious decision to start the program and trust in the process.
Now, and this isn't actually, I'm gonna skip the question I have here, and I'm gonna ask you specifically about that leadership aspect. How important would you stress, like, even though your wife is saying, "Hey, it's over," like, there's nothing you can do. How important do you think that men, just in general, do not realize how important that leadership is?
I mean, it really, I mean, I obviously didn't realize it at all for a long time. Um, and I mean, over time, it has just become so obvious that I was letting her lead in so many areas. And I thought that that was something that she wanted. I thought that was something that, you know, mm, if I was giving her the lead to do something, then she was choosing. That type of thing would make her happy. Um, but it was really the opposite. It was putting so much weight on her. Um, it was it was essentially putting all the responsibility of our family on her, and then some. And once you kind of realize that, and it's not that crazy hard to be able to say, I'm gonna take care of this, I'm going to do that, I'm going to, like, it just, you really need to kind of sometimes take a step back, have someone else kick you in the butt, like happens in this program, and really kind of jumpstart you into looking at it in a little bit different way. And that's really kind of what turned the page for me was, instead of us going back and forth on what are we going to get for dinner, now I'm saying, this is what we're going to get for dinner. And there's no more arguments with the kids, no more fighting with the kids. Instead of wondering, is the laundry going to be going out? No, I'm not gonna wonder about that. I'm taking it. I'm doing it. Is this is any of things around the house gonna get done? Who's doing it? Who's gonna fight or argue over it with the kids? Who has chores? Like everything is now structured. Everything is led. Um, so that has been a huge difference.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, um, what was it that you, because I hear that, especially recently, from a lot of guys that they're like, I thought she wanted to lead. And I think we skew what she understands as leading or just even having input or making decision, right? Versus us genuinely like, I, I'll take your input. I'll listen to it. Okay, we'll make this decision. We'll either do it together. Sometimes you let her lead, but mainly, you're the one that's carrying the relationship of the family. So, what was it like? Where did you? I guess because this isn't on the questions, but that was an interesting point that you brought up, and I love that. Where did you believe, or if you can trace back those, actions, thoughts, belief pattern that we kind of? Why did you believe that she wanted to lead the relationship in that form before you came to us?
I don't know if it was believing about leading the relationship. I think that there was a big part of me that was kind of burnout, and that was like, because I was launching a company, I was working full time, and there was so much stress and so much everything else that sometimes it was almost like it was just easier to just say, okay, whatever you want. And again, not realizing that she was dealing with all of the stress with the kids and the family and all of this stuff, and she just wanted someone to take these things off her plate. And instead of me stepping up and doing that, I would make excuses, or I would do something, like I would have meetings and I wouldn't be available. And I think that that played a big role in it. It wasn't so much that, I guess, I noticed that she was leading the relationship as much as it was I noticed that I wasn't contributing in the ways that I needed to. Me thinking that just letting her make all of the decisions was going to make her happy. That was a big mistake.
Yeah. Awesome. And that's a common mistake because a lot of guys go, I'm over here, you handle over here. But I genuinely, this is what I've been telling you guys lately and just putting in content and stuff. I genuinely think people forget that at the bottom, holding it all together is the man, right? The man pursues the relationship, but then he also holds it together. Um, and the cornerstone of a great society is the structure of the family unit. And you guys definitely have to develop in tandem. So that's awesome, man. Now, when you came to us and when you joined, was there a specific like problem that you were trying to solve? Like, was it stonewalling specifically? What was that specific problem?
I mean, when I first came to the program, it wasn't no contact, but it was, we're not talking. You're in the other room. I'm in this room. Um, and I wasn't really sure of the right way to behave or the right way to approach anything, because I immediately went into the old trying to fix everything mode and started doing all of the cleaning and all of the chores and started doing everything that I wasn't doing before, thinking that was going to fix things. And the reality was it pushed her further away. It made me look super needy, and um, it wasn't the right path to take. So the biggest thing for me in the beginning was just, understanding what are the first steps that I need to take to, be able to even be walking in a direction that's going to lead to reconciliation. Like I have no idea what I'm doing right now, and I've never felt like this in my life. And it's almost like I need the blueprint. I need the plan because I'm I'm lost right now. Um, that was how I felt in the beginning.
Awesome. And then so you said that you looked at other programs and whatnot. Did you try anything else besides like, what everybody does, the chores and all of that? Did you try any other programs or anything?
I bought the love languages books. I read all of those, which I learned from them, but that wasn't the what was going to get us to where we needed to be. Um, there were other programs that I started engaging with, talking back and forth with some of the representatives or some of the people, on Instagram or whatever it might have been. But it wasn't, none of those programs, when I say resonated, I mean, it was like someone would talk to me and then I wouldn't hear from them for days. And then if I did hear from them, it was like a short little like response. And it wasn't like working with you and your team where, the first conversation I had with Jake was 2.5 hours long. And it was, I literally told Jake, and it was just the intake call. I said, this is the best I have felt since this has happened. And that was probably about 2.5, 3 weeks after she told me she wanted to separate and get a divorce.
Yeah. And that's a crazy time, especially for that. That's why we take care of you guys so well. And so I guess the biggest question is then what results have you achieved so far?
So to this point, we are back to flirting again. We're back to being very open with each other about a lot of things. Um, we're back to hugging and being, somewhat affectionate. We're not back to being intimate yet. We're not back to, the regular I love yous and I mean I say it to her every day, every time. But she's still very scared of things reverting. She's still um, leery of trusting in the changes that I made. Um, but I've really, really done a lot of work to ensure that um, I've eliminated a lot of the habits and things that got us to where we were. Um, really changed my mindset on a lot of things, which happens through the work we do in the program. Um, and we're watching movies together now. We're um, doing a couples app where every day now we're doing it and answering questions about each other, and um, it's feeling like we're moving in a direction where there is a happy um, well, there's a future for us. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, you could be proud of it, Rudy. You could be. You don't have to be so precocious, right? Obviously, we
No,
talk about ups and downs, but where you were to where you are now, did you even think that you would get here?
so we talk about it in the program about how you need to have the mindset that you're going to achieve your goals, you're going to get to the, um, try not to be too outcome driven. I always believed from even when she first told me, I said to her that I believe in us. And I believe that we can figure this out. And this was even before the program. So, um, were there times that I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be in this house in a couple months. I don't know if I'm going to see my kids only on weekends in a couple months. I don't know if we're going to be splitting everything up in a couple months. There was a period where I had no idea, and I've been through a couple therapists now, but one of the first ones that I actually talked to, he asked me, where do you see yourself in 6 months? And I said, I have no idea. I can't even picture what's going to happen. Um, and going from that in the beginning to now is almost night and day. And, we're just at the stage now where we're just continuing to build that trust and continuing to have those conversations. And, there's still testing going on. There's still things we need to work through, but it's pretty amazing to see where we are now from where we were 3 months ago.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. And so, okay, so I like to ask these questions. What did you expect before you read the book and then before you came into the turnaround program?
I guess from some of the other stuff that I've seen, um, I expected there to be kind of like a little bit of a blueprint or guidance on how to have discussions, or um, maybe some do's and don'ts, or um, maybe some stories about other scenarios, or other things that have happened, and some possibilities, and some outcomes, and just I guess I guess the expectation was that I would be given some type of path, um, but the reality is my expectations were blown away throughout the program by the support you get, by um, just being able to talk to you on Voxer, just being able to post stuff in the portal and in the group chat areas, like getting feedback. Um, that was way more than I expected. Uh,
That's awesome. Interesting. And that's interesting too, because like, as far as I know, we're the only ones who are even dare touch Voxer because look, man, I've been through it my fucking self, right? I don't just wear this for no reason, right? When I was in the military, I can barely afford really anything. I used to wear a rubber ring, and then, this is crushed diamond, so that's pretty cool that my wife kind of saved up, and it was after we reconciled and everything. And I know what it feels like. Like being stuck in divorce limbo is probably the worst. The worst. You just feel like a shell of yourself, like a ghost. So I completely get it. That's why we give you everything that we do. I'm glad that it exceeded your expectations. That's always nice to hear. So we'll wrap up with a couple of questions. Won't make them too long. Um, these ones I like to kind of pick your guys' brain with, because I definitely want to talk about, and we'll kind of save this a little bit to the end because you talked about counselors already, and we'll kind of get into that because I want to hear your experience. I want people to hear that it's not like they're not just in this isolated incidents. right? With their wife is getting really bad advice. They're getting okay, just inconsistent advice from people who mean well, right? But what has been your main takeaway from everything that you've ever learned from the heroic husband turnaround program, just everything?
That the only thing that kept me grounded and sane through all of this was the heroic husband program. Um, and the reason I say that is because I went through a few therapists, and it didn't seem like any of them were really addressing the issues that I wanted to address. They weren't, and maybe some of it was, me wanting to jump into things a little quicker. I don't really know, but um, it was a scenario where I would sit with a therapist, and they would just question, like, okay, well, this is what's happening. Why do you want to stay in this? She's already told you she doesn't want to do this anymore. Why would you keep pushing? Why would you? And I would explain to them, and then we get to the next session, and it'd be more of the same. Well, what emotions do you feel, and why? What has happened? And I would tell them, and oh, well, she's continuing to tell you, she doesn't want to move forward with your relationship. Well, why aren't you listening to that? What do you? uh, it was almost getting frustrating. Um, and then, when it comes to other types of advice, what's very interesting is most of the time the people around you don't understand the dynamic between you and your wife. They're not there at home with you. They don't see the things that happen. And I've always been a very charismatic, outgoing person, and I know that people have a certain perception of me, and it's hard for people to understand that I would have been dismissive, or that I would have been, I mean, that I would have been inconsiderate, that I would have not put my wife first in situations. And I've literally had some of the people closest to me be like, this isn't your fault. And I've literally, mainly because of the work I've done in this program, looked back at them and said, listen, I know exactly what is my fault. And I'm taking responsibility for that. And if I would have just sat and listened to everyone else and not done the work and not been a part of this program, um, I wouldn't be sitting here where I am today with her. Um, Pretty much everyone else questioned why was I even staying in this? Why was I, it's not what she wants. Why are you pushing? Um, and it's not that I was pushing. I just believe that we still had something there. And I believe that if I made the changes and I did the right things, and I showed her that things can be different, and started leading, that it could change. And it's sometimes very difficult to hear everyone around you saying the opposite and keep pushing forward. Um, but that's why I'm always very grateful that we have this community and that we have this program, because it's what's kept me grounded.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And so this is side note. What has been like not necessarily the most profound thing, but hearing it from your wife, because we've been going over back and forth on Voxer, and I've seen you post your wins. What was it that your wife admitted to you that kind of took you by surprise? That maybe you did learn, like maybe it was something that I was like, hey, this is what's happening. But then when you heard it from her, you're like, oh, it makes sense. Like this is why I shouldn't have listened, or I don't listen to everybody. This is why I'm trusting the process. What was it that you learned from her that you're like, oh shit, this makes sense?
Well, I guess I'm trying to really understand how to answer this question,
Yeah, so
because
I'll say it like this, because everybody will always say like she doesn't want it. Why are you like forcing it? What it like, you know what I mean? Like she like they're always caught up in what they think is actually going on, right? Without understanding that dynamic. And recently your wife admitted, right, some things to you, like the fear and all of that. So, what would have been from you guys talking and doing these deeper conversations? What would be the one thing that you're like, oh shit, like I had no idea, like, wow, this is kind of eye opening compared to what people were telling you?
I mean, I think a lot of the most eye-opening things are once we start excavating and once we start getting into a point where the conversations are opening up, there are things that I never even thought of that were deep rooted pain points, bleeding points. Um, and we're still uncovering some of them. But I mean, I think part of it was at one point my continuous, I guess, belief and strength in us allowed her at a certain point to uh, see a different side that she started to trust and that she could open up to. And um, I mean, I can't, I'm trying to think of like some aha moment. Um, but it's really not like that. It's really series of just smaller discussions and smaller moments that take time. Um, and even after you have those discussions, they're not over. They come back. I mean, even tonight, right before this call, um, she had put a song, and I didn't even know this. I didn't even realize this. She had put a song into our paired app earlier, and the question was in the paired app, what song represents your relationship? And she put Sonny and Cher's I Got You, Babe, but she wrote out the lyrics. And when I responded to it in the app, she wrote back, I wish you would have responded like this all the other times I tried to talk to you about this song, with a tear face after it. And I didn't even realize that that was something that she tried to do in the past. Like, I didn't even remember that this song necessarily had that type of an impact. Um, then when we got home, um, I told her I was going to get on a call with you, and she was like, "Is there anything you want to talk about before you get on the call with Noah?" And I was like, "No, but is there anything you want to talk about?" And she said, "Yeah, we can continue our conversation." Um, and we went into another deep conversation about how hurt she had been for so long and how hard it is for her to get past the fact that it was years of feeling neglected and pain, and it was 2 years of her thinking about leaving and getting the strength to leave. And then she made that decision, and now it's like she loves everything, but she's just terrified of things going back. And this is kind of the stage that we're in, the reoccurring conversations that are similar, uh, where we're just trying to work through that, and she's trying to work through, moving past thinking about all of the negative experiences. And I'm kind of trying to work with her to shift the mindset to look towards amazing future experiences instead of just sitting here thinking about all of the things that hurt in the past. Um, it's important that we talk about them, we identify them, we make sure they never happen again. Uh, but yeah, right now we're trying to move into that shifting uh, mindset phase to look forward.
Yeah, and that's beautiful because, like, one thing I want to hammer home that you said, it's like everybody's always looking for men, for us guys. I did it too. We're all looking for this big, like, aha moment, like, that's it right there. But what a lot of people forget, it's the micro that feeds the macro. You know, it's all those little things. Women get this. Oh my God. They're like, they got a tally mark, right? She knows. For us guys, we're like, well, I want the big thing. I want I want the 4th of July fireworks, right? But once you're grounded and you're solid and you're leading, it's all those little moments that show that genuinely just pack a punch for her nervous system. Like, okay, I can lean in again. Then obviously now we're at the stage where we're going back and forth, shifting into bonding, which is that's where the fun work is. That's where those shared experiences are. So I have a couple wrap up questions, and thank you for sharing that, man. And that's really important for a lot of guys to hear, like genuinely really important. Like a lot of guys think that they do, oh, I did the work, right? But like what we talked about, I've tried to look, right, just to compare more recently than before when I was kind of building everything. Well, more recently, I try to look, compare. I can't see anybody talking about what we talk about, right? And it's very interesting because you guys will be like, oh, let me just borrow his confidence. Like I tell you guys, borrow my confidence. Don't worry, we'll get you through it. But then when you're finally like starting to see that light, those peaks and valleys, everybody wants the peaks. It's those valleys, even the troughs, the harder, like, oh my God, I think I'm going to leave tomorrow type of a deal, that really cement that resonance to where she can now, her feminine is now, and this is what you're experiencing, processing those feelings with you. That's not a bad thing to avoid. That's a beautiful thing to embrace. So we'll just kind of wrap up with these couple of questions. Sounds like you definitely weren't learned a lot. And we talked about a lot of like takeaways and things that you've learned. So I'll ask you, what surprised you the most
About the program or about
about the program, the experience? Like, what has just surprised you the most?
I wouldn't even say surprise me, but can I frame it in terms of what has probably helped me the most?
Yeah, you can frame it
Um,
in however you want, man. This is just us back and forth having a conversation.
One of the hardest things that I had to deal with throughout all of this was her talking to other guys and her talking to someone else. And one of the biggest things that helped me was when you got on Voxer and you reminded me that this other guy is not better than me. This other guy doesn't hold a candle to me. And that type of confidence and that mindset, that was almost like a little bit of an aha moment to me, where I was like, you know what, he's fucking right. Like, I'm I'm our kid's dad. Like, I have like there's so many experiences and so much stuff that we've shared. Like, no one has any of this. And not only that, like, I know who I am. I know what I'm capable of. I lost myself and I slipped up and I got into a place where I wish I never would have gotten to. But now that I'm back, he's fucking right. You know, it I am the guy she fell in love with, and I am the guy she can fall in love with again. And um and that's how it's played out so far. But that was one of the biggest aha moments for me, was just you specifically reminding me, like, forget about this. Forget about all of that, you know? Keep doing the work. And yeah, the biggest thing you probably said to me, just remember, he's not better than you.
Yeah. Yeah. And, that's a challenge. That confidence is a challenge that a lot of guys go through. And it's where a lot of guys self defeat, like, horribly. Like, some guys don't even have, like you said, like your wife was talking to other guys. Um, you didn't even know if you were gonna be in the house in 2 months, let alone like what the future held. But that confidence, you carried that, and I can feel it from when you first came in to now. Even just how you had that nice cockiness about you, um, to where I don't even think we talked about this yet, but to where that had to come through because you had that, basically that make or break moment that I don't even think it's like one of those macro moments. It's kind of like a medium. It wasn't even that like big of a thing to where what was it? She saw a counselor. Someone suggested separation,
Oh yeah, that
and
was she started seeing a therapist.
Mhm.
Her therapist, she told her that she wasn't sure what she wanted. And this is when things started to shift a few weeks ago. And her therapist told her the only way to know for sure is if we actually physically separate and one of us moves out. Um, and my response, my response was, well, I don't exactly agree with your therapist. Um, and she said, well, why? I said, well, it's actually, something that we talk about in this program, and that um, that a lot of guys in the group talk about. And, you know, by us being apart, we don't have the opportunity to see each other grow. We don't have the opportunity to support each other and to be there for each other. And I think that's really important. Um, and she just responded, okay. And we obviously we never moved out. Neither of us
Yeah,
ever moved out.
no, and that can only have came from your groundedness and your man of steel mindset. Like,
Hmm.
I'm giving you kudos here, man, because in that moment, if you weren't grounded, oh my God, I'm dealing with some guys right now, right? They just self sabotage. And so big kudos to you, man, there that it's not like you defended. It's not like that you try to sway her. You just said, hey, I understand. This is what I think. And that is like above and beyond what you can deliver. And now you're seeing those seeds plant and how heavy that went. So we'll wrap it up with just a couple more, questions. So what are your thoughts on Noah, me, and my level of feedback and the action steps that I provide you guys?
Um, I I think that going back and forth on Voxer is amazing. It really gives us the opportunity to have that one-on-one interaction on a more regular basis, which is super helpful for little scenarios that we might need a little tip on, or it's super helpful, if we're going through kind of a crazy situation to even just help calm us down and get us back in the right mindset. Um, I've used it a lot of times just to get little tidbits of advice, on something that's coming up or how to approach something. So, that has been super helpful. Um, Going through conversation modules and posting for review is super helpful because it gives us the opportunity to really work on and refine how we're approaching our conversations. And the type of feedback you give is fantastic because I mean you're not it's almost like we get beat up a little bit and then you give us you give us the right way to kind of talk about it. Um which is important, I think, because this shouldn't be all um you need to have a little tough love sometimes when you're working through some of this stuff. And um I think that sometimes eh, some of us can get a little impatient with wanting to have answers and responses immediately. Um, but I think the level of feedback that we get is great.
Awesome. I love it. Okay. And so, would you recommend this to other people?
Oh, absolutely,
And who
absolutely.
would you recommend it to?
To anyone that's going through this, I was literally on a bachelor party. Um, we were down in South Carolina, and we went out to a strip club at the bachelor party, and I was not in any frame of mind to be at a strip club. So I just went outside and I was just hanging out in the parking lot and ended up running into another guy that was going through a divorce situation. And I'm like, dude, here's the website. This is what you got to check this out. Um, and I would recommend it to anyone that's going through this type of situation. Um, I'm not sure that everyone is successful at it just because you have to take it seriously and you have to do the work and and take the steps to better yourself and make changes. And if you're not willing to do that, you can only lead a horse to water. Um, but I would highly recommend this to anyone
Okay. And then, if you could, um, why would you recommend it to people or
because
anyone?
it's real. Like it's not just hand you a a, a booklet and some audio tapes and or some audio recordings and you're off on your own. Like it's real life discussions. It's real life scenarios in real time that give you the continuous support that you need to be successful. And not just successful in bringing your relationship back, because that's not always what's going to happen, but and finding a way to be your best self. And I think that's the biggest key, because if you're not going to put the work in to be your best self, um, I think it's going to be very difficult to uh, for the rest to fall in place.
Beautiful. I love that. And so, um, last question, probably the hardest question of it all. Okay. So, what are your thoughts on Noah?
um, I think Noah is Noah's pretty impressive for a few reasons. One being that he has really put in the work to understand not only the guys going through this because he's been through it, but the feminine, the female side of it too, and understanding the psychology. And he's really put together the tools in the program that allows us to um, transform ourselves and gives us the opportunity to save our relationships and our marriages. Uh, and the way he approaches talking to people is fantastic. He's very open, can be very straightforward and kind of blunt with you, but at the same time, um, has the soft enough side to listen and to understand and empathize. So I think it's a pretty good fit for a lot of people.
Beautiful, man. And so, you know, I appreciate everything. I honestly genuinely appreciate you being vulnerable and open. I do these interviews with certain people. I don't do them with everybody because I genuinely want to make sure that the change and the results and everything is genuine. And we always follow up with multiple interviews. Like I said, some of the old guys that we're following up with, and we're kind of hammering home, seeing how they're updating and everything with wives, so on and so forth. And so, just kind of wrap it up. Is there anything, like any hope or anything that you want to give to any guy that might be listening to this, or anybody that might see this? Is there just, anything that you want to say to them?
The biggest thing I'm going to say is that believe in yourself. Believe that you can do the work. Believe that things can get better. Believe that by sticking to the plan and by uh, participating in the group and by um, allowing yourself to get lost in the process is is going to get you to where you need to be. Uh, but the biggest thing is don't give up. Don't don't think that the impossible is impossible because it is.
Beautiful. All right, man. Awesome. Well, I'm going to stop the recording. We'll do